Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for today's second video, the Chelsea versus Brighton match preview. And should Chelsea continue to use the youth that we saw on Wednesday night against Grimsby in the Premier League? And it's not just the youth that we saw feature against Grimsby. It's for the foreseeable future. Is it something that we'll be seeing a lot more of in Chelsea's first team for Premier League games? And of course, we've got the small matter of a trip to France next week to think about as well. First thing I will say is I know I've been uploading a load of content recently, and for some people it's a bit too much. For others, it's great, but I'm not going to be able to promise to upload twice a day, every day for the future, because it is quite a lot of work. It is quite a lot to do. At the moment, it's perfectly cool. I can carry on doing this for as long as I possibly can, but I don't want there to ever be like any drop in the quality of the stuff that I'm putting out. So if at times I feel as though I need to work on a video for a bit longer, then maybe you guys might not need to expect 2 videos a day every single day. But hopefully you guys understand that. I'm sure you will do. You all seem like a very good, reasonable bunch of people. So let's go and take a look at what I think we can expect from Frank Lampard's team based off of the press conference that Frank's just done. I wanted to wait, and I'm wearing my number 8 England shirt with Lampard on the back today for this video, of course. Based off of Lampard's press conference, what are the main things that we can understand? Well, Reece James, Hudson-Odoi will both be in the squad for Chelsea's game tomorrow. Christensen and Olivier Giroud will be back from injuries and illnesses respectively. They will be put back into the Chelsea squad. Rudiger is still out. Emerson is out. Ruben is out. Those are the injuries we already knew about. But one thing that stuck with me during the press conference today was how Fikayo Tomori is now the number 1 or number 2 centre-back on his pecking order, which is absolutely incredible. How Tomori has come up through the academy, and after a few starts and a few impressive performances, he's now one of the first names defensively on Frank's team sheet, which is amazing to see. And I feel as though at the moment it's difficult for Frank because he doesn't want to be seen as this manager who's just using the young players because it's what the fans want. He's doing it based off of merit. He is using his squad selections based off of a meritocracy where whoever's performing well and the best is the first name on the sheet as a result of those performances. So the fact that he's saying these things about Tomori, it's not just a bias because he's managed Tomori longer than he's managed the other players because he had him at Derby last year. It is thoroughly based off of the way the players are performing on the pitch, which is great to see. And basing what he said there off of what we saw on Wednesday night, could we see Reece James starting the game against Brighton and Hudson-Odoi starting as well? So we're going to take a little look at Brighton first of all. We're going to talk about Graham Potter's new team. I say new team, it's kind of a similar team before with a few additions that are actually making this Brighton team quite an attractive footballing side. They play a free-flowing style of possession-based football. It's a 3-4-3 formation. That's what they used last week against Newcastle. And I expect them to use something similar for this game against Chelsea. I think they're going to come to Stamford Bridge and try and play. And the question that I have at the moment with Frank's selection tomorrow is, does he go and try and combat 3 defenders that Brighton will use by doing what we did against Wolves and using 3 centre-backs of our own, or does he stick to what his favoured formation is, which is a 4-2-3-1? Do we stick with the Sarri 4-3-3 that's worked so well for us recently? It's difficult to know, but I've made my team selection based off of who I believe should start for Chelsea based off of fitness and this meritocracy that we talk about at Chelsea Football Club right now, where players are being put in based off of their performances. So let's pick out a couple of players for Brighton that we need to worry about. Aaron Moy was a great signing in my opinion. I thought that he was Huddersfield's standout player in their 2 seasons in the Premier League. He's likely to play on the left-hand side of the 3 attackers. Maupay up front. I'm not fully sure that he's 100% fit for this game, but if he is, he's a decent striker. Pascal Gross as well on the right-hand side. He gets a lot of assists and he's a decent player for Brighton who, since they came into the Premier League and since he's been playing for them in that starting 11, he's been very good. Also, you've also got Dale Stephens and Davy Proper in the middle who are decent midfielders for Brighton, and when they're defending, it moves back into the wing-back positions where they've got 5 defenders with Montoya, and I cannot for the love of me remember the name of the left-back or the left-sided midfielder. I try not to, I try just to roll with my errors in these videos. I try to keep it as natural as possible for you guys without having to keep looking at a screen and then covering my face with graphics just to hide the fact that I'm reading off of a script. Don't have any scripts, there's nothing here. I do, however, have my Chelsea starting 11, or my preferred starting 11, to my left. So we're going to start with the goalkeeper. It's Kepa. We don't need to focus on that too much. He would love to keep a clean sheet in this one. I think all at Chelsea right now want a clean sheet. Frank Lampard said in his press conference that it's not as if he's been given an abundance of luck when it comes to having all of his different players available to him to be able to manufacture a clean sheet by having our strongest possible defence out all the time. That hasn't happened. So in terms of whether or not this clean sheet is this big elusive thing right now at Chelsea, Frank is focusing more on the fact that as long as we score more goals than the opposition, then he's happy. And I, for one, totally agree with that. As long as Chelsea keep scoring and starting to win games, I will be happy. So moving in to the two centre-backs, we've gone with Tomori and Kurt Zouma. With Rudiger out and Christensen only playing once in training this week, Zuma's performances against Liverpool and the way he commanded the back line against Grimsby probably give him the start in the centre-back pairing for this game. I've gone with a 4-3-3 for my formation, which means we've only got two centre-backs, but if Christensen is fit enough and Frank decides to go with three centre-backs and then the wing-backs with, we'll go into that later, I'll show you guys what I've come up with, I do believe that Zouma will partner Tomori in centre-back, considering now Frank has said that Tomori's 1 or 2 in terms of his selection, pretty guaranteed that he is in that. Moving into the left-back position, Ian Maatsen came on and did very well in the game against Grimsby. Not going to start him for this one. I think that if he was close enough and ready enough, he'd have started against Grimsby. Marcus Alonso to play at left back for Chelsea. I think that clearly, I say it all the time, defensively, a lot of work needs to be done, but he's at that stage in his career now where I think we should all just accept that Marcus Alonso is a very effective wing back, maybe not so much as a left back, but I think he'll come into for Chelsea this weekend against Brighton and do a job. And the right back position, this is where the debate begins, and I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. I've gone in my lineup with a flat back 4 with Reece James at the right back position. I just think that we cannot ignore the evident qualities that this guy has. And yet again, Tilda is sending me messages right now because she's actually working on a banner and a logo for the GBFC, George Benson Football Channel, George Benson Football Club, whatever you want it to be. Little hint for you there. Reece James, I feel as though he brings more solidity defensively than Azpilicueta does in a flat back 4. I think that the best position right now for Azpi at Chelsea is on the right-hand side of 3 centre-backs. I would love to see him playing there more, but we know that Frank favours playing 4 at the back. And I really don't want this to come across that I don't rate Azpilicueta anymore at Chelsea. I think that I stand on the same page as a lot of others where we know that he's probably had his best years. And in terms of the ability he's got, he is very good going forward at times. But the thing that worries me, and this is where I think Reece James is a better option, is that when Azpilicueta gets forward, he gets forward a little bit too much sometimes, and then when he needs to be back, he's always running back to make the tackles as opposed to already being back and ready to go at the attacker of the other team. I think that's where Reece James is better from what I've seen of watching his highlights at Wigan. Not just highlights at Wigan, like making these videos, I try and do a bit of digging here and there where I can to actually understand our players a bit more so that when I'm making these videos, I can actually go at you with an opinion that you might not agree with, but hopefully I can back it up with some kind of logic. I've put Reece James in my team. However, I think realistically, we'll see Reece James on the bench for this one. Azpilicueta will probably start, which I'm still happy with that. It's perfectly cool. So moving into the 3 central midfielders in this 4-3-3 formation, I've gone with Kovacic, Jorginho and Kante. I think that Jorginho playing in front of the defence and then Kante being able to have a bit more of a licence to roam and go forward the way we saw him do so against Liverpool. And Kovacic, his industry, I've already spoken about him this week. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to go and check it out. I talk about what Kovacic actually brings to this Chelsea team, trying to avoid the words progressing play and press resistant and all of that stuff that we hear so often about Kovacic. So I think that Kovacic's tackling is going to be important in this game. I think his ability to dribble with the ball is going to be able to create opportunities for those forward Chelsea players. Now, if we move into the forwards, I've started with the striker because I think that one is the one that has less debate. Despite Michy Batshuayi's good display against Grimsby, Tammy Abraham is likely to continue as the Premier League striker. He's got 7 goals this season. Only Aguero has scored more. It's a brilliant start for Tammy. And this kind of game at home to Brighton is a real opportunity for him to potentially get some more goals. If we bring it back to Brighton's team, Lewis Dunk, really good centre-back. He's their standout player defensively. And Matt Ryan is also a pretty good goalkeeper. I've seen him make some brilliant saves before, watching some of Brighton's highlights. He's a good, solid keeper, but Tammy Abraham will back himself to get some goals. So I've put him as the striker, and then I put Mason Mount on the right, which again leaves us with a question about who plays on the left of this Chelsea attack. So I've gone with Callum Hudson-Odoi. I feel as though, again, Frank's confirmed he's in the squad. He managed to last 90 minutes against Grimsby, and it didn't look as though at any point in that game, despite, no offence, the quality of the opposition, it didn't look as though Callum was struggling. So bearing that in mind, and bearing the fact that, yet again, Frank has alluded to the fact that Pulisic is still young, he's going to need time to adapt, he's going to need time to grow into this Chelsea system and team, I think for this game, we might see Hudson-Odoi start with Mason Mount alongside Tammy up front. So what does this mean for Pulisic? And I want to address something I've seen this week on social media, which Chelsea Twitter in particular is always a very interesting place to be. Sometimes it's a little bit hostile. Sometimes you can say one thing and then the next thing you know, you've got like a mob of anti-whatever you've just said haters coming at you, which is, it's the same with anything in football really, but obviously I tweet more about Chelsea than any other club, so I experience it more from a Chelsea standpoint, and weirdly, I've not been getting that much hate. I'd say it's more constructive criticism, which is the kind of conversation that I'm glad you guys are getting involved with in the comments down below. If you disagree with what I say, I don't have to be known as this, you know what, it could just be a case of, George, I think you're wrong here and I think this. That's the kind of conversation that you guys are getting involved in with me, which I love. I mentioned it in my 6 Things We Learnt video, and I think I stand by everything I said, where there is a lot of good, bright elements to what Pulisic is bringing, but right now, it just doesn't seem as though that connection, which is there with all the other players, is there with Pulisic. Does he ever get that if he's not starting matches because he's being dropped for that reason? Maybe not. But at the same time, Frank alluded to it in his press conference again today, he needs to be seeing the qualities that Pulisic has every single day, which suggests to me that, again, bringing it back to this meritocracy, Frank is not just picking players based off of performances in matches, but it's performance and effort in training that is also coming into play when Frank is making his decisions as to who starts. So obviously, I don't see the players training every day. I only get to watch what you guys get to see, which is the matches and the performances on the pitch. So Frank's obviously seeing something in training to suggest that, well, Pedro deserves to start ahead of him, or Willian deserves to start ahead of him. Hudson-Odoi potentially deserves to start ahead of him. And we could easily see neither Hudson-Odoi nor Pulisic play in this game, and it could be Willian that plays on one of the wings with Mount on the left, Willian on the right. Same could be said for Pedro, but Pedro played 90 minutes against Grimsby, so I think that in terms of the Premier League match squad, we're more likely to see Willian starting over Pedro. But right now, there's a lot of questions that could be asked. I've gone with a 4-3-3. Let me know what you guys would go with, but we're going to take a look at a couple of other potential starting 11s now. So the first one is a 3-5-2, and I'm using the 5 in the middle as Reece James on the right, Azpilicueta in the right centre-back, Marcus Alonso playing as a wing-back. You could call it like a 5-2-3, or you could call it a 3-5-2. It depends whatever way you want to look at it. Obviously, there's a difference between Chelsea defending and Chelsea attacking. The way that the lineup is on the pitch is 5 when we're defending, 3 when we're going forward. This suits our centre-backs down to the ground, in my opinion. Tomori can play on the left, Azpilicueta on the right, which again would be a brilliant thing to be able to see Azpilicueta nurturing Reece James into the right-hand side. We've already seen Azpilicueta come out in support of Reece James verbally within the Chelsea team and within his social media. To see an Azpilicueta there with Reece James as a wing-back, I think that would be a really exciting formation for Chelsea, and I think considering Brighton play with a 3-4-3, it's definitely something that could combat this Brighton team based off of what we saw at Wolves that worked so successfully. Then you've got Alonso over on the left-hand side. If Christensen's fit, he's probably the best to play in the middle of those defenders, but if not, I'm very confident with Zuma playing in the middle of that back 3. Moving forward, obviously, if we want to stick with 3 attacking players, either one of Jorginho, Kante or Kovacic would have to drop out. It's impossible to drop Kante out, so for me in this one I just went with Jorginho and Kante. Could easily be Kante and Kovacic, and well, if Kante's still not fully fit, which we never really know at this point, it could easily be Jorginho and Kante as well. Moving further forward, I've stuck with Hudson-Odoi, Abraham and Mount. because that is the three that I would personally start. Again, I don't know what Frank's going to do, and I don't think anybody really knows this weekend what lineup we're going to see. If we didn't see the youngsters perform as well as they did against Grimsby and manage to last the 90 minutes, then I don't think we'd be having this discussion. But Reece James's standout display has definitely got him knocking on the door. But you could also say that we've got a match against Lille on Wednesday. Which one of those would you rather start Hudson-Odoi and Reece James in? I'd personally do it in the Premier League and then revert back to type, revert back to what we know with the experience for a Champions League away game in what's likely to be a hostile atmosphere in France. I'll see you guys there. So on the screen right now is also a 4-3-3 with Christian Pulisic playing on his preferred left-hand side. This is something we could also see. From what I'm hearing from Lampard, he's got 4 wingers now that are fit, and I'd probably say that Williams put himself above Pulisic in the pecking order that Frank is choosing from right now. We've got to remember with Pulisic, and I keep talking about it because it keeps coming up, he's only 21 years old. He needs to be treated in the same way that all the other youngsters do, where right now, we've got to remember, he wasn't starting every game towards the end of last season for Dortmund. Whether that was because they knew he was going to Chelsea or not, it remains to be seen. But Pulisic, yes, he's the main man for the United States men's national team. We all know that. Everything goes through Pulisic. In every single attack, he touches the ball, he gets it, he carries it, he either scores the goal or assists the goal. He's the main man there. But in this Chelsea team, we're talking about a lot of quality players. No offense to the US men's national team. I know a lot of you that watch this are from the United States, but there isn't that abundance of quality within the US national team as there is at Chelsea. So just like everybody else, Pulisic might need to be patient in order to get his chance to play regularly in this Chelsea team. And as I've said throughout this whole video, it's based off of merit and performances. Now, Pulisic has not played badly, but I think what we're seeing from Frank is this mixture of young players and experience that he believes is the most confident to carry forward for Chelsea to get the win. So that brings an end to my match preview. I have predicted Chelsea to win this one 3-0. I'm confident after what I saw against Grimsby, and I know that there's not really too much to talk about from a defensive sense from that game. The one shot they had, they scored a goal, which is a bit of a pain. But I think Chelsea will get that first clean sheet of the season under Frank Lampard this weekend. But just like Frank said himself, it's not necessarily the most important thing to get this clean sheet that we're all craving. We do want to see, Tilda is getting some progress right now with this banner. We do want to see Chelsea keeping clean sheets, but more so than anything else, 3 points at home this weekend is absolutely essential going into our first Champions League away match, which also is a must-win game after we were beaten at home to Valencia. But anyway, hopefully I'll see some of you guys at the bridge tomorrow. If you want to come and say hello, I go to the Cock Tavern these days for a pint. So if you want to meet me in there, I'll be having maybe 2 or 3 shandies tomorrow because I'm not driving my car. So going to enjoy the last weekend with the London is Blue podcast guys being over from the US. Jan's going to be coming up as well. So if you want to come and say hi, see you guys in the Cock Tavern pub tomorrow afternoon. Chelsea-Brighton. Big game as always at Stamford Bridge. Thank you guys for watching the channel this week. It's been a mad one. I've uploaded a lot of videos. Like I said at the start, it's not going to be a recurring thing seeing 2 videos every single day. But if you're not yet subscribed to the George Benson Football channel, soon to be potentially George Benson Football Club, but not an actual like football club where I play matches like a lot of other YouTube teams do, but just like a conglomerate of individuals, I guess you could say. You, me, George Benson Football Club, George Benson Football channel, whatever you want to call it, it's coming. I promise. See you guys in the next video tomorrow. FIFA Career Mode Episode 4 before the game. I'm uploading it at 10 AM. I need to stop going in for the old high five to the camera lens before I've actually finished talking. So I'm done now.